All right, Shalom. Shalom, all praises, all glory, and all honor goes to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. There's always peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. There's another edition of GMS News and Prophecy, and I have another article here from RT.com. There's a headline, Warning Shot, China sells U.S. Treasury bonds amid trade war. Okay. Now, a little while ago, I just did a video pertaining to the coming economic collapse that's to come to America, and the stock bubble that's supposed to burst. That's going to cause it. Okay, a great economic crash is going to come to America, and I mentioned in that video very briefly about how these different countries and news outlets around the world are reporting that these different countries are dropping the use of the U.S. dollar. So now we have another article here from RT, and this is dated from the October the 13th, this past Saturday. All right, that China is selling off these U.S. Treasury bonds. Okay, and once again, this all coincides with prophecy. All right, now China is an ally, especially when it comes to trade with the U.S. China and the U.S. are allies, and China holds a large amount of U.S. debt. That actually came out a lot heavily during this last 2008 U.S. economic recession. How a lot of these countries, such as China and Japan, were holding large amounts of U.S. debt, but now they're selling that debt off, and they're dropping the use of the dollar and moving towards strengthening their own home currencies. Okay, and all what this is going to do is this is going to lead to the fall of America. This is going to lead to that stock bubble bursting. Okay, and the great crash to come. Okay, so I'm gonna read it. It says China has sold $3 billion of sovereign dollar bonds. This is only the third such move by Beijing in the last 14 years, and the first involving bonds with a 30-year maturity. China sold $1.5 billion in 5-year bonds at 3.25%, $1 billion of 10-year bonds at 3.5%, and $500 million of 30-year bonds at 4%. The finance ministry said on Friday, is quoted by Reuters. All right. Right here it says printing machine. U.S. Treasury issuing more bonds to feed soaring debt, but there are no takers. And that's something too, man, because nobody wants to deal with the U.S. dollar anymore. All right. It says Beijing is the largest holder of U.S. debt. As of July, China had $1.17 trillion invested in debt minted by the U.S. Treasury. Right, because you see this money here, even this $5 bill, this Lincoln dollar. All right, this is a debt dollar. All right, because when you read it, it's known as a debt note. Okay, which is printed by the Federal Reserve, which is privately owned by the central banks, which is in turn owned by the elites of Esau, the Illuminati, the so-called international bankers. All right, now they're behind all of this, of course, because they want this economy to crash so they can bring in the New World Order. All right, but what it's going to lead to is going to lead to prophecy being fulfilled of Babylon the Great being destroyed. And that's what they're not counting on, because they want to rebuild Babylon. All right, but that's why it says in the book of Malachi, the Lord said that they shall build, but I will throw down. All right, in Malachi, the 1st chapter, talking about Esau. All right, so now China is adding to that coming destruction by selling off the debt of America. All right. It says China has made the sale at a time when the yuan had depreciated 10% against the dollar amid an escalating trade war with the U.S. For any other normal corporate borrower, the decision might have been to stand on the sidelines and wait for the market to stabilize a bit. But China is a little bit of a different animal, a banker who worked on the deal told Reuters. I don't think people had concerns about China specifically, but it's just a broader macro noise, the person said. In the recent tat-for-tat trade punches, China stopped buying oil from the U.S. China's crude oil imports from America reached an average of 334,880 barrels per day through August, making Beijing the second largest buyer of U.S. oil after Canada. Now let me bring out this scripture here because this pertains to what's going on. This is Obadiah, the first chapter, starting at, I'll start at verse 6. It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? So you understand we're talking about Esau. All right, the Caucasian, the so-called white race, all right, and their elites, all right, that run the U.S., all right, that run America. Now it says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Now these different countries and the governments are confederate with America, all right. It says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, okay. So China was once at peace with America, but through this trade war that's going on between the U.S. and China, things are being are bringing in tension. Okay, it says the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread, meaning that money, that debt, have laid a wound under thee. Now this is a major wound. All right, right here, this selling of right. That's why it says this warning shot. You know, when you shoot somebody in the arm or the leg, you know, or you might graze them on the neck. The bullet might graze them on the neck. You know, you wounded them. They're not necessarily dead. It's not a fatal shot, but it's a wound. So that's what selling this debt off means to America. Okay, a wound is laid to America because at one point China was eating the bread, eating the money, eating, you know, as Jake calls it, bread. You know, we call money bread or dough because that's what it represents. You know, if you have money, then you can eat, you can buy food. All right. So this is what's going on here between China and the U.S. At one point, they were buying the debt of America, even to the point that it was going to mature years later, but they're still selling it off. So that's a wound to this place here, man, Babylon the Great. All right. Right? So back in the scripture, it says, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Okay? So this is it. All right? There's none understanding in these countries, man. You're not going to bring them back to your side. All right? That's why it says they have prevailed against thee. Okay? So, and once again, this place is done. All right, that crash is going to come soon. All right, and I'm going to end it. It says, once again, it says in the recent tat-for-tat trade punches, China stopped buying oil from the U.S. All right, so they've deceived them and prevailed against them. China's crude oil imports from America reached an average of 334,880 barrels per day through August, making Beijing the second largest buyer of U.S. oil after Canada. So far, Washington has imposed tariffs on $200 billion of Chinese goods, and Beijing retaliated with tariffs on $60 billion of U.S. imports. So there's a tit for tat going back and forth between China and U.S., which is eventually going to lead to the economy of the U.S. collapsing. All right, so we have another prophecy being fulfilled before our eyes, man. We're coming to the end of this place, man. Okay, we're coming to the end of America, and its destruction is soon at hand. Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashmiah Shai, the Holy One of Israel. All right, the true Israelites, the so-called Black Spaniards and Native Americans, our power is going to redeem us from the captivity underneath the so-called white man and the rest of these heathen. Okay, we should be rejoicing right now. All right, and these are things that as Israelites we're supposed to be talking about. All right. But with that, I'm gonna end it there. I'm gonna give our praises, glory and honor once again to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace, blessings, and mercy, and a shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom.